Stand by now, one.
Pleasant good afternoon to one and all, and welcome to the APNU-AFC show for this afternoon, the afternoon rush. My name is Randolph Critchlow. We want to thank those persons joining us in the diaspora. We're thanking those persons joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana who've been listening to us ever since the beginning. It has been 331 days since the March 2nd regional and general election 2020, 331 days, and the country still does not have credible results from those elections. It has been 178 days of this fraudulent administration that was installed, given those fraudulent numbers from the recount. And the APNU-AFC continues to lead the charge in holding them accountable in every single thing that they do. We want to thank you again for joining us. Remember, we're live on Facebook. We're also live on YouTube. So if you prefer to watch at the program on that platform, go right ahead. Remember to share the stream. Let your friends know, let your family know that the APNU AFC is on, bringing you the credible and valid information. Today, of course, we will be looking at a number of international issues. We know that the tensions, given the border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela, has been heating up. There's a lot happening there, and we want to bring you up to date with all that is happening there on the international scene. Today is International Day. Right here, we're going to be bringing you lots of information. The Honorable Member of Parliament, Amanda Walton Desir, who is also the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, will be joining us later down in the program. Notably, she met with the minister, fraudulent Minister of Foreign Affairs today, Mr. Hugh Todd, to discuss issues. And, you know, this is something that is a little contentious about reaching out to the other side and working. But we had said from the beginning, on matters of national importance, the APNU-AFC would have said from the beginning that on matters of national importance, especially our territorial integrity, we are going to be working to ensure that Guyana's patrimony, Guyana's territory is not taken by anyone. So Amanda Walton Desir would have met with the minister today to discuss a myriad of issues concerning the Guyana-Venezuela relations. And we're going to get into those issues today in depth. We're also going to be, as we said, today is International Day here. We're going to be dealing with the diaspora and their influence and their thoughts on what is happening in Guyana at the moment under this fraudulent administration, under this administration that is bent on doing things in the old manner, the old corrupt manner, the old corrupt PPP. So we are going to be having that conversation and digging deep and unpacking a lot of the international issues that we are facing. I want to bring in our first guest today. Before I'm joined a little later down by my co-host here, Duncan, I'm going to be bringing in the first guest, none other than Mr. Norman Brown. Mr. Brown, good afternoon. Welcome to the APNU AFC show.
Thank you, Randolph, for having me. It's indeed a pleasure. It is indeed a pleasure to be offered this rare opportunity, to be on a program of this nature.
Yeah.
Uh, I am tremendously appreciative to you guys for allowing me this opportunity.
Yeah, so I want to jump right in and tell you, you're most welcome. We always want to hear from those persons in the diaspora. And as I said in the introduction, we want to know what the feeling, the general feeling is of those persons from the who are they call Guyana home, but they're on the outside looking in at the moment. What is the temperature? How do people feel about what is happening?
I think that there isn't any temperature. I think that it's natural for people to know based on it that 23 years of hegemony, 3 years of brutality, 23 years of racism perpetrated by a government under different PP presidents' rule. I think people would have understood already that another term is the continuation of that vicious cycle of human rights excesses, that vicious cycle of corruption, that vicious cycle of the PPP government being in bed with incompetent people, with the narco world, and so people are alert. You know, people are surprised, people are flabbergasted to some extent by the fact that the PPP has returned to office with the same actors that would have visited upon us those atrocities.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I mean, I am constantly monitoring what the our members in the diaspora are talking about. It is quite stark to see their reaction, and I want to deal with something that is a bit maybe a little controversial. There are
Mhm.
many persons who may see what is happening and may call for protest actions or shut down the city or shut down the country, whatever. Many have said, you know what? They're sitting there in whether it be England, whether it be USA or some other country, and they're calling for these actions, which is quite convenient. Your thoughts on those persons who would put forward an argument that look, the people in the diaspora don't necessarily want the best, but they just want, you know, something to happen. But the extremes that they're calling for, it's not necessarily warranted. Your thoughts?
But I don't understand why people would resist the fact that two young black boys, the Henry boys, immediately after the elections, the decision to allow the PPP to go into office immediately after that would have happened, that two young black boys would have been slaughtered in what many say it's an Indian community, slaughtered in the most vicious way, be dismembered. You understand, and that people would not respond or react in a way that requires the attention of the world, and in a way that requires a response that is not passive but is active. And when we tend to generalize on actions that should be taken, protest actions especially. I have been a political activist since I was in my early 20s, and I know the right to protest is a fundamental right. Look, Randolph, it is a situation where we are just waiting. We are just waiting for the excesses to be materialized because it's actually going to happen. It's inevitable, for the want of a better word. But our response to these things must measure the actual situation. It must be a response that requires our action in the way that we would deal with it. And so if there's a football game that is happening and we don't agree with that football game, I don't expect that the masses would come out and react like that. But if people are being killed, if corruption is happening, if all these excesses are happening as they have started to happen under this under this new PVP administration, then the response must be, in tandem with the situation and the action.
Yeah. And I'm happy that you went there, and you spoke about the murder of Joel and Isaiah Henry. Uh, there was, worldwide condemnation for the action, especially from the diaspora. Uh, what are your general thoughts on how that has played out and where we are right now with that situation?
But let me first say that we could not discuss this issue without recognizing the efforts and contributions, and involvement of Nigel Hughes, Attorney at Law Nigel Hughes, and Attorney at Law Ronald J. Daniels, and of course, citizens who would have stood up. Look. Let me be very frank with you. The PPP is a political organization that carries with it a sort of demonic enterprise. The PPP, under the leadership of Barajagio, has always been a political party in government that would have visited on the country, the society, things that are unimaginable, evil things, wicked things. I was speaking with a friend today, Randolph, and I'm being honest with you. I was speaking with a friend, and he said to me, he said, this Mr. Jagdio carries a demonic nature. He carries an aura that once he is in the seat of power, directly or indirectly, lawlessness will prevail.
Mhm.
Lawlessness will prevail. And I kind of wonder why Guyana is such a religious society. And our preachers and our religious leaders are not speaking to that issue. Let me make this pellucid. 4 to 5 years of the coalition's rule. I've said it so many times. We saw the return of normality. We saw decency. We saw a rule that says that human rights is paramount. We saw the value of life being promoted in the context in which, people begin to feel safe. We saw those things. I mean, of course, there were other problems that existed that we'll talk about, but we saw that the coalition would have returned some semblance of normality and decency and order and you know, lawfulness. Randolph, I think the problem with Guyanese is that we stifle our conscience. We stifle our conscience. We may have a lot to say about and his administration, but that fear that we were locked in, the bars behind our windows and doors that we call grill, you understand, the fear to speak because we would be murdered. You understand? All of these things, in the 4 to 5 years of Mr. Granger's administration, if I were to say anything, and I would say it to my grave, I owe a debt of gratitude for the PNC, for the APNU AFC administration, making Guyanese feel safe, making Guyanese know that there's value to life. We may have been poor, we may not have had jobs, but at least we had that democratic foundation in which we felt free and safe, and that we could have spoken openly without fear of reprisal.
Yeah. That is definitely something that many persons would have identified. Um, and we would have been highlighting from day one. And you may notice I started the program by saying it's been 178 days now since the PPP would have been installed. And the amount of corruption, the amount of, as we normally call it in the show, refer to it, confusion powder that seemed to be sprinkled on this nation, it
Mm-hmm.
it is just unbelievable. Uh, and you know what? I know that you are the host of Voice of the Diaspora in the UK.
Yeah.
What are do and I want to ask you this question, knowing that there are many persons also in the US of A who are working to bring the plight of the Guyanese people uh, to the ears of those who have the power to do something. Are there any such movement on your end?
Well, as you said, the voice of the diaspora is perhaps the foremost movement in the UK and in the whole of Europe, if not in the whole of the diaspora. That is a leading voice that has been consistent over the past. My presence in activism, as many would know, would have been more than 23 years. I know that there are others, and I would not be arrogant enough not to acknowledge that there are others, in small and large ways who are making their contributions. You have Eric Lewis in the United States. You have different groups, and you have programs in the United States that are geared to informing people in the U.S. about what is happening in Guyana. We have to pay homage to those people, and we have to give respect where it is due. We have to give respect to the ordinary man. You got men like Sevens, former deputy regional chairman of Region 10, that they take to their Facebook pages. These ordinary people that we don't recognize. So many people that would go on social media before thousands, and offer their views on the politics of our country. And so Norman Brown is not alone, though prominent in the consistent fight to expose wrongs in our society. But Randolph, I wanted to make this point, and I want to make it lucid. I know that one of your guests, Amanzo Desire Walton, will be on. Brilliant, brilliant Guyanese intellectual, brilliant, absolutely brilliant, a woman of caliber and social standing, a woman who is, or moral standing cannot be questioned, but her intelligence would penetrate any walls of wickedness in today's society. And I had the opportunity to interview her, and I elated by the fact to be in her presence. Uh, there is hope, Randolph. There is hope. There is hope, and we cannot give up. But let me say this to you. Let me say this to you quickly. I want people across the diaspora not to understand that this hype about the PPP being a transformative political movement is a misnomer. It's non-existent. It's non-existent. The PPP in its nature, in its very nature, it's to be evil, it's to be racist, it's to be corrupt. Let me give you a quick example if time allows me, because I don't really want to, I want to start. Let me give you an example. When we look at the creeping nature and tentacles of dictatorship, we don't have to wait until it becomes full-fledged. We don't want to wait until the violence increases and the brutality escalates to then say, yes, this is what we see. There is a situation at the moment where the PBP in the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports has employed, in a capacity that no one knows, a very checkered character, a person of a checkered past that has been involved, and we know for a fact, I'm not saying alleged, bring the libel to me. This is a person who was involved in the underworld, is involved in the underworld. This is a person who has been in situations where women were raped. This is a person who the tongue of Linden knows would not be fit to be in any position to influence or inspire change in Guyana. And the PBP, under its its Minister of Culture, Youth, and Sport, Charles Ramson Jr., is promoting this person, pushing this person ahead because they feel that this person can make inroads into Linden and switch the people of Linden to support. Now, why I said that is because in any government, under the David Granger's administration, we would have recognized the return to rewarding excellence. We would have recognized that. We would have, and I mean it. I want the nation to hear this. Under David Granger's administration, you couldn't go into any ministry or national office without any formal qualifications to run any department.
Yeah.
Christopher Jones is the former director of sports. He's qualified. He's qualified. We don't have a director of sports, but the PVP wants to foist upon us someone with a questionable past that has one subject since the early 80s and have never pursued further education. One subject, and that subject is technical drawing. And they are pushing this person into Region 10 to say that this person is the lead figure to decide whether a state-of-the-art sports facility must be built at a location without consultation with the people of that community. And when I said to you that we don't have to wait for the creeping tentacles of dictatorship to squeeze us with violence and crime, I'm saying that these indicators, these early indicators, if we don't put a stop to it, then we allow dictatorship to manifest and we are to be blamed.
Yes. Yes, I am definitely agreeing with you, and I'm happy that you brought that to the fore. These are some of the issues that we're grappling with, and we hope that you continue to stay on the battlefield as it may in bringing these issues to the fore. Unfortunately, we are running out of the program time. I can give you about 30 seconds if you have any parting words for the people in Guyana who are fighting this fight.
I thank you once again for having me on the program, and I'm honored. I'm deeply honored. I want to say to the people of Guyana, wherever they are in the diaspora at home, I want to say to you, like, be re-energized, be ready, be prepared. I know that we feel deep inside of ourselves that we're tired, after 23 years of the hegemonic role of the PPP, we would have given the APNU AFC the chance, and many have been disappointed, and that's an issue for another discussion. But I want to say that do not despair. Be re-energized, be prepared, because we cannot go for even 4 years with an administration that has replaced every criminal element in various offices in government that were responsible for what happened over the 23 years. Anil Nandalal was there when the atrocities happened. Kwame McCoy was there when the atrocities happened. Barra Jagdeo was there when the atrocities happened. Why would you think that there is a new dawn with the same criminals? And so I say to you, be ready. Gird up your loins like an able-bodied seaman and be ready to fight this struggle, because it is a struggle that will ensure that our children don't disappear, that there aren't shallow graves that we can't find, that there aren't murders that we can't solve, that we don't have a judiciary, you understand, that is compromised, a police force that is compromised, phantoms and black clothes that will kill our people to silence them. You understand? In a
Yeah.
country oil rich, in a country that progress is important, where the redistribution of the wealth must be for black Amerindians, Chinese, Indians, and everybody, we are not going to allow any one race to be bowing at the altars of political expediency for our bread, our daily bread. You understand? And that's my message to all.
Right. We want to thank you very much for that. Of course, for those persons who are now joining us, we're talking with Mr. Norman Brown, host of Voice of the Diaspora in the UK. Mr. Brown, thank you very much for joining the show today.
And thank you for having me, Randolph. It's a pleasure. And thank you, Andrew, also.
Right. Thank you. Right. So there you have it, folks. We were talking there with a member of the diaspora. As we said, we are dealing with a number of international issues today. We are going to, of course, delve in, as I will be joined by my co-host, Mr. Sherrod Duncan.
Randy,
Yes.
very good afternoon. I'm happy with the way you are unpacking at your end. I didn't want to interrupt at all the flow of information, because our Guyanese people at home needs to understand that there are people in the diaspora who have our back and who are looking after our interests on the ground there as well as on the airwaves, which is tremendously important. I was talking with another such colleague out of Sao Paulo, Brazil, just during the course of the day. I've been talking to folks in some far-flung places in the world who continue to rally support on our behalf, and it's just tremendously inspiring and encouraging, Randy. Whether it is in the region here or further afield, there are Guyanese like Norman Brown who is picking up the fight in their own way, in their own manner, where they are in the diaspora. And you know, if persons of that nature are listening this afternoon and want to know how they can play a part, we can let you know how you can play a part. I had folks from Trinidad, from Antigua, who have reached out to us from you know, almost all the Caribbean countries, who want to know how they can play a part in moving us ahead to where we need to be again. And I am thankful again for folks like Norman Brown who are so encouraging and so inspiring on the ground in the UK, making it happen for Guyanese people and keeping the fight where it needs to be.
Yes, definitely shared. And as we would have said many, many days, those persons who are taking the fight over there in the diaspora are very, very important to our cause. There are many, many Guyanese, many more Guyanese that are outside of Guyana than are here. That is no surprise. We are a country that exports our best minds, apparently. Given the nature of developing country, this is not very surprising. But we're thankful for those persons who are continuing to take the fight to the PVP from here and further afield. Sherry, this afternoon, as I intro the show, we're going to be trying for the remainder of the show to unpack some of the international issues happening, more so the Venezuela-Guyana border
Right
controversy.
ahead, Randy. Right ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, what I want to do, Sherry, is for people to understand a holistic position. Guyana is committed to a judicial resolution to this matter, and I believe that non-recognition on Venezuela's part is them pushing to see whether or not we will abandon this idea of going down the road of of the courts. Of course,
No,
we
no, no.
know.
But we've tried the good officer process,
Mhm,
and which led us to this path.
yeah,
And we have said that these lands that they claim, the Essequibo, has been ours since 1899. It is well established. So we ain't backing down now. And I'd only say for my own part this afternoon, before we welcome Wallace to come next, that we have to show a little more backbone as a country and those who representing us. And I saw some comments um, attributed to our ambassador, Mr. Insinali, at the OAS. We
mhm,
need more of that. I don't like the fact that our ambassador just accepted a protest note very quietly from the Venezuelan counterpart. Folks, this is war. This is politics, and we don't have anything to be afraid about. We ain't thief nobody land. They're coming to thief our land, and we seem to be cowering and going quietly into the gentle night. And I'm saying nonsense.
yeah.
You understand me? You might
I,
take me, but you ain't taking me quietly.
I saw, Sharon, that the OAS would have released a statement. I think we have that statement from the OAS. And I want to point out the particular language used by the OAS in that release, where it says the General Secretary of the Organization of American States condemns the illegal detention by Venezuelan dictatorship. And I want to point out that particular line there, that they use the word dictatorship of two Guyanese registered fishing vessels. I know we have criticized the OAS. Your thoughts on them referring to the Venezuela as a dictatorship?
I thought it was a good statement all in all. But whether the OAS still have the clout to issue such a statement after their past actions remains to be seen. And the close association with burgeoning dictator that we had in Mr. Trump and his
Mhm.
acolytes, it's a very strong statement, one that is needed. But whether OAS has the clout still to have any effect on events, international events such as are occurring right now, remains to be seen.
Yeah. And for those persons who are not joining the conversation, we know that things have been heating up over in Venezuela as it relates to their claim to more than two-thirds of our country and our
Yeah.
economic zone. So they've been holding uh, conferences and council meetings, and this ratcheting up of the rhetoric as it relates to Essequibo. Now, Sharon, I just want your analysis before we bring in the shadow minister of
The, the
affairs.
specialist.
Yes,
That's
especially,
right.
I want your take. Given the recent change of the guard in America, how much of that do you think uh, is that is can be attributed to the newfound zeal and zest that that Venezuela seems to have as it relates to this particular issue? Or is it that they're trying to push us away from this idea of the court?
But I think they are going to do as much as they can to see how far that they can get. I think, like Kim Jong Un, they will try to see how much of the world spotlight that they can take. Maybe like Jong Un, they want a confrontation and a meeting with the U.S. president on this matter, which gives them some sorts of um, legitimacy on the world stage. So it remains to be seen, and I know there are persons far more versed in this area of international affairs than I am. So this is from a layman's point of view, that they want some attention on the world stage to cement Mr. Maduro's dictatorial rule there, but they have to choose some other means, and not by trying to seize our territory and bully us out of our territorial waters. We aren't going to stand for that, and as is known, we're going to use every legal means that is at our disposal.
Yeah. And for those persons who don't know, the Minister of Foreign Affairs recently had a video conference call with counterpart in Venezuela, and there are some conflicting reports on how exactly that um, meeting went. For more on that, we want to bring in our resident specialist on international affairs, the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Amanzo Walton Desir, attorney at law, Miss the Honorable. Do yes, welcome to the show, and we're happy to see you, and hope that you can continue to bring some more light on this issue. As I know that Guyanese may be concerned as to what is happening.
Yes, well, good afternoon, Randy. Good afternoon, Sharon. Thank
Good
you for
afternoon,
having me.
MP.
Um, Amanda's fine. You know, we certainly, I must commend you guys for the job that you're doing in terms of keeping our people informed and up to date on these developments. Very, very important um, for us. Um, so thanks for having me.
Awesome. We saw that recently you would have had an engagement with the with your counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Could you tell us what came out of that? What may have prompted the meeting, and what came out of the meeting as a result?
Well, look, I had some concerns, which sort of grew over the last few days about the narrative that is out there about um, what action the government is taking, etc., as it relates to bringing these men home. Um, so I just thought that it was important that I get answers. I reached out to the minister's office, and he was quite kind in scheduling a meeting which took place today. Um, it was a cordial meeting. The minister outlined to me the steps that the government would have taken so far in terms of, um, in terms of trying to bring an end to the detention, the illegal detention of our fisher folk and their vessel. And so it was a good meeting, very informative. Of course, uh, there were some concerns that I had, which I indicated to the minister. He was quite gracious in receiving them. Of course, in Parliament, Sherrod, we would have indicated that we wanted to support in a bipartisan manner, because this is a matter that touches and concerns our sovereignty, our territorial integrity. And so, as a matter of principle, there's very little daylight between us in terms of um, rubbishing Venezuela's claims to the Essequibo and the contiguous territory, zones. Um, so we discussed those matters. I was at pains to point out, however, to the minister that, look, you are saying that you need unity, and this is a point that we have to stress. You're saying that you need a unified approach to addressing this issue, but every day we are seeing where actions by the PPPC administration in terms of targeting Afro-Guyanese, in terms of victimizing Afro-Guyanese professionals and firing them indiscriminately, that these actions are eroding, the unity that we will need to face this threat. And so, yes, while in principle we do support, without question, our territorial integrity and our sovereignty in the context of Venezuela's claims, it is foolhardy for us to, it is naive for us to believe that a spirit of nationalism is suddenly birthed when
Yeah.
these events occur. Government has to take deliberate action to foster and to promote that sense of nationhood. And I stress this point to the minister very clearly, because it is important that we appreciate that you cannot govern a population as if you have won 100% of the votes, ignoring the calls and concerns of a substantial 49% of the population. And so these are some of the things that we spoke about. We spoke about the need for public education. The minister did indicate that on Saturday they'll be unrolling a program. Because if you notice how some of the media are covering it, Shara, they do not have an appreciation of the nuances of the matter. And so it is my considered opinion that, um, as in when we were, children growing up, we had a strong sense of nationhood, not one blade of grass. We alluded to our national songs, and those things promoted a spirit of nationalism. And so I was at pains to point out to the minister that his government needed to do much more in terms of fostering that spirit of unity amongst Guyanese, and that would be indispensable to us, successfully facing this threat. Another issue that we um, another issue that we discussed was Cormac's involvement. I have a difficulty because I saw somewhere in the media Cormac issuing a statement on the interventions that they would have made on behalf of the people of Guyana in the context of our border controversy. And I find it, Venezuela's dispute, actually, Venezuela's claims. I find it troubling that a lobbying group is making these interventions on behalf of the people of Guyana. We have a foreign service. We left in place a
Foreign
fully
mission.
left in place a fully equipped foreign mission in Washington D.C. Um, to be able to handle these types of interventions. Lobby groups have loyalty to no one or nothing. Their interest is in who they're serving at the moment, and so it's hazardous to trust your foreign diplomacy in that
The
manner.
foreigners.
Yeah, you do not know, you know, what is being traded away and so on and so forth. So, um, I would have discussed those concerns with the minister. As you're aware, we would have posted a number of questions in the National Assembly. So I expect that come tomorrow when we sit, the Honorable Minister will be so gracious as to provide the answers to those questions in relation to Cormac. But all in all, it was a cordial meeting. I am thankful that the minister took the time out to sit so that we can hear what is on each other's minds and hearts, and to be able to agree on moving forward so that we could reunite these men with their families.
Yeah, and on that very note, Amanza, we have been looking to the US and Britain and Canada and the European Union for some kind of strong comment as it regards the return of these fishermen, the return of citizens of Guyana who are being detained illegally in Venezuela. And we have not seen that. We saw a very unified approach, for instance, during our electoral process, but we don't see that same kind of energy being dedicated here. While we have had some statements, they have not been what one would have expected from our who we call partners, international partners. I did see a statement this afternoon attributed to the U.S. authorities. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but in terms of it's speaking to our fishermen and the return of those fishermen. It said, in part, the U.S. supports the peaceful resolution of the border controversy and welcomes the December 18th decision of the ICJ to take jurisdiction. We will continue to follow this case closely.
I must have been in traffic on my way home when that statement was issued. I know the last one I saw, the OAS had issued a statement.
Yeah,
And of course, hey, this is the danger of not having a steady and studied and stable approach to foreign policy. Um, because we have to appreciate that nation states will pursue their interests,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I am disturbed as to why we haven't heard from CARICOM yet. Belize has issued a statement. Um, the OAS has issued a statement, though you have rightfully said, given the blows that their reputation has been taking recently, um, the weight of that is yet to be seen. So it is something for us to monitor very, very closely. There has to be, we have to agree, all in all, that illegally detaining um, citizens of another sovereign state who are in their um, exclusive economic zone, um, plying their trade as they are legally allowed to. That it has to be a no-no, that they will be detained and be hauled before authorities. And so it's interesting that these statements are taking so long to come forth. I noticed somebody said on Facebook that you can't be selective in your intervention in this way. So it's something that we have to continue to monitor. But when it comes to the issue of getting those 12 fishermen home and reunited with their families, I think, we have to put aside the politics, and our focus has to be on getting those 12 men home to their families.
Well said. What comes next in your estimation? Looking at how things are going, there seems to be, at least in the part of Venezuela, kind of ratcheting up of the rhetoric. We saw what would have been some very strong language coming out of the foreign affairs minister's counterpart in Venezuela as it pertains to the legality of the detainment. We saw him issuing a protest note. I mean, one finds it very, very strange. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'll say that I anticipated Venezuela will keep ratcheting up the pressure in terms of the rhetoric. Um, like I pointed out to the minister, Venezuelans from as young as Prep B are indoctrinated to believe that the Essequibo belongs to them. In fact, their maps are drawn in a manner that reflects the Essequibo as their territory. Um, Unfortunately, we do not have that same public education drive here in Guyana. And at the same time, the government seems to be hell bent on doing everything in its power to destroy any sense of nationhood and unity among Guyanese. So, really, they have to do an about face, or they will find themselves painted into an unfortunate corner.
My oh my. And we are very, very concerned about, again, that ratcheting up of the rhetoric. But I was happy to hear you say that the government intends to roll out a public relations campaign as soon as the weekend, because that is sorely needed as to where exactly we are and what should be the position of the Guyanese people on this front. And I would have expected Amanza, some more leadership from the front by the president on this very issue, because I think we're seeing an unparalleled period in our relationship with the Venezuelans, especially on this issue. I've never seen them this vocal, this agitated. Um, did you expect us to see the president more out front on this issue?
Well, it would have been appropriate for him to at least address the nation on the matter. Um, this is not necessarily new territory, but we are living in different times now. And so one would have expected that level of leadership to be displayed. His silence is worrying, but I suspect we'll hear from him sooner than later.
One hopes. Amanda, we are heading down to program time. And for those of you who probably wish we had more time, I'm just alerting you that Amanda is supposed to be in the ring this evening as well. So whatever we fail to ask here, we are definitely going to get our attention later on those issues. But Amanda, before we go and before we run out of time, anything else that is pressing that the guy need? I mean, what should be our posture at this time?
Well, our posture has to be what it has consistently been. Um, not not one blade of grass. You know, um, we anticipate that it is it is it is a fact that the government will of course make mileage of the fact that we support of our bipartisan support on this issue. But that does not mean that we will be less resolved. This is a matter of our national, our territorial integrity, and our sovereignty.
Correct.
And, if we cannot agree on this issue, then I don't think there is hope for us building a Guyana, um, going forward. And so, yes, notwithstanding, um, it is principled that we do support them. We will not do it without pointing out that you cannot continue to erode the unity that is required for us to face this very grave threat. It is not going to work. You must understand that the human psyche will not allow people to disregard the fact that I was fired yesterday, fired today. It
Yeah.
requires it requires a lot of discipline to be able to separate those issues. And right now, you go to the average man and the mini boss, and they really are saying, "I couldn't care less." Like it's hard, you know. So let the government figure that one out. And that is not the spirit that you need pervading Guyana right now. So the government has to come forward with some very tangible good faith indications that it intends to foster unity. So, for example, having a budget meeting and so on and not inviting the opposition, but then out of the same mouth, you call for, oh, we need to be unified. It's ridiculous, it's ludicrous, and they must rest assured that the Guyanese people are seeing it for what it is. They are seeing it for what it is. So we will, of course, continue to support our sovereignty and our territorial integrity. We've made it clear that we will support, the lawful interventions that the government will take, but we will continue to hold the government accountable for their actions and continue to point out that they are acting in a manner that's deleterious to national interest and national unity.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. And with that, Amanza, we're going to end it there and pick up a little later on this evening on whatever we may have missed this afternoon. We want to thank you for your time. Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mrs. Amanza Walton this year. Amanza, it's also a privilege having you at this end, and
Good
do
to
stay
be here
safe.
with you, my dear. Always a pleasure. I'll see
Do
you
stay
in the
safe.
ring. I'm gonna go get my Vaseline and so on and my gloves. And I'll meet
Looking to
you
see
back
you.
in the ring.
Looking to have you there, ma'am. Looking to have you there.
Yeah.
Folks,
Thank
again,
you.
the Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mrs. Amanza Walton Desir. And as we leave, folks, as you know, we love to encourage you to. We do have Randy's going to be helping us to wrap
I'm
up.
back. I'm back,
Um,
but I'm back in a low quality, as you can see.
we'll take in whatever quality we can get, Randy. You're that important to us. I
Yeah.
was just doing our housekeeping as per normal, advising our Guyanese folks here or in the diaspora to take COVID seriously, sanitize, social distance, wear your mask, folks.
Yeah.
Observe all of the COVID protocols that are in place wherever you are, and let's stay safe.
Yeah, and I'm happy that the man just reminded us that our posture should be not to blade the grass. Let's all continue to work for national development. Sharon, it was a pleasure this afternoon.
Pressure was all mine, my brother. Not a bit of grass, indeed.
All
A great
right.
note to end.